Hello and welcome to our first proper post after our introduction. Let's look at what we mean by a small bridge. I'm going to be completely arbitrary and say that any bridge less than 15 metres in length is a small bridge. Bridges which are less than 4 metres I'll call tiny bridges, and we'll give them a lot of attention later in the series. Small bridges can be seen in a wide range of widths. The narrower the bridge, the less load can be applied to it, and smaller beams can be used. This can be critical in remote locations with poor access. Walkers carrying rucksacks have been known to get stuck in bridges where the parapets are too close together. To overcome this, raked parapets are sometimes supplied, based on the fact that most people are narrower in their lower body than in their upper body. Maintaining strength while attaching the raked parapets can be a challenge, and we'll look at this again when we look at parapets in detail later in the series. The most common width for smaller bridges is 1200mm. These will exclude some legitimate users, and we suggest that 1500mm is more appropriate. We have to recognise that on grounds of economy, in some locations, cheap, narrow bridges have to be used because the budget will not run to a more appropriate size. We also have to recognise that under the DDA we have a legal duty to provide for all users, and by having a very narrow deck we're excluding some legitimate users. When bridges are used by a variety of users such as cyclists, mobility scooters and horses, the deck may be segregated to keep the different users apart. Another way to define small bridges is to look at the users. The majority of small bridges in the UK are pedestrian bridges. The increase in cycling and mountain biking encourages more attention to the needs of this group. Cycleway bridges have the same loading as pedestrian bridges, but the parapet height needs to be increased. The needs of personal mobility vehicle users should always be given serious thought. Small adjustments early in the design can make all the difference to this user type. The British Horse Society has been and remains an effective lobbying organisation. Bridges used by horse riders are usually called bridleway bridges. Bridleway bridges have an additional loading to ensure the bridge deck can take the loads if a horse was to rise up on its back legs. The parapet is radically different, being 1.8 metres high and with the lower 600mm closely boarded. Some cash-strapped rights-of-way officers provide the suitable deck width but not the specialised parapets, and post a notice asking horse riders to dismount while crossing. The texture of the decking surface needs to give the horse good grip and should not drum, as this can frighten the horse. The series of bridges we've just looked at are similar in many ways. When we consider vehicle bridges, we go into a different paradigm. These are still small bridges with much greater demands. In this post, I've tried to define what we mean by a small bridge. We're interested in what other people's views are on this. Thanks for watching. See you soon, I hope.